Ladies and gentlemen, President Uhuru Kenyatta is a chess master when it comes to politics. In this video, I'm going to explain to you guys step by step, stage by stage, how President Uhuru Kenyatta started plotting way before the last general election how to make Raila Odinga the next president of the Republic of Kenya. And I'm going to demonstrate to you why this particular election is one of the most important elections in the life of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And therefore, the president must deliver the presidency to Raila Odinga. In fact, this election is so important to President Uhuru Kenyatta, just like the 2013 election was important for him. Which takes us to the question: how did President Uhuru Kenyatta manage in 2011 to convince the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto, to support him out of or from Raila Odinga? Because President Uhuru Kenyatta is a chess master, he realized that for him to defeat Raila Odinga in 2013, he needed to do something. He needed to get William Ruto out of Raila Odinga. William Ruto, Raila Odinga, and Musalia Mudavadi had clearly managed to win the 2007 general election. So the only thing which Ruto needed was to meet with Raila Odinga. I'm sure today Raila Odinga might have been out of the picture and the deputy president would be one of the serious contenders for the presidency. Or maybe he would have been one of Raila Odinga's prime minister, because Raila Odinga would have changed the constitution. But let us not get into that. I want to explain to you how President Uhuru Kenyatta is executing his plan of making Raila Odinga the next president of the Republic of Kenya. Just before the last election, Uhuru Kenyatta had realized that his deputy was not fit to take over from him. He looked around and he identified a few individuals. One of them was Gideon Moi, the other one was Kalonzo, the other one was Mudavadi, the other one was Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga was his least option. But he figured out that for him to succeed, he needed Raila Odinga. So immediately after the last election, President Uhuru Kenyatta figured out, how can I make Raila Odinga the next president of the Republic of Kenya? So he began with his step one. The first step was to break Jubilee Party and to break NASA coalition. So how was President Uhuru Kenyatta going to break NASA? And how was he going to break Jubilee? Because William Ruto had put all his efforts in Jubilee. Remember, he had his party URP, which he merged with the TNA and formed Jubilee. How was President Uhuru Kenyatta going to break Jubilee while the deputy president was watching? How was he going to break NASA? So the president came up with a plan. The plan of the handshake. So President Uhuru Kenyatta started negotiating with Raila Odinga. Those in the know will tell you that immediately after the last election, while there was still those issues of court case and the rest, Uhuru Kenyatta had started sending fillers to Raila Odinga. And behind the scenes, negotiations started. And because these are son of a former president and vice president, they were able to talk. So the handshake was unveiled to Kenyans in March 2018. That handshake was meant to achieve two objectives: to break Jubilee and to break NASA. Why was it important to break Jubilee? In President Uhuru Kenyatta's thinking, he knew that by inviting Raila Odinga to this handshake, his deputy, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, was going to be provoked. Because William Ruto is a very angry man. He had started campaigning for his presidency, and anything which was going to bring President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, he was going to oppose. So the president engineered this handshake, provoked the deputy president, and what next? William Ruto became mad. He started taking on President Uhuru Kenyatta. He started creating rebellion within Jubilee Party. And before we knew, two factions emerged in Jubilee. That marked the beginning of the troubles in Jubilee. So he was able to break Jubilee. Why was the president breaking Jubilee? It was important for President Uhuru Kenyatta to break Jubilee because he had publicly told the Kenyans that he was going to support his deputy. So he wanted a situation where it was going to appear as if the deputy president is the one who left. And indeed, when the president was endorsing Raila Odinga, he indicated that for me, I never said I was not going to support my deputy. And he equated it to a relay. So breaking Jubilee was important. And the handshake achieved that. The second objective was to break NASA. Why was it important for President Uhuru Kenyatta to break NASA? It was important for President Uhuru Kenyatta to break NASA because he wanted to deal with Raila Odinga directly. And the moment he invited Raila Odinga for that handshake, he told Raila Odinga, come alone. So Raila Odinga left his co-principals. And these guys became mad. And that formed the excuse of these guys leaving NASA. NASA died. And because NASA died, President Uhuru Kenyatta managed, because Raila Odinga had a binding agreement with NASA. So when NASA died, President Uhuru Kenyatta, as the chess master, successfully managed to break that NASA coalition agreement. That was a bondage which Raila Odinga was carrying on his neck. How was he going to run away from that NASA coalition agreement? When Kalonzo Musyoka the other day tried bringing it up, what excuse do you think was given? The excuse was that NASA coalition collapsed and Kalonzo Musyoka was the one who announced the death of NASA. And because NASA collapsed, that probably explains why these guys were able to enter into a new arrangement. So that was the first step. Break NASA, break Jubilee through the handshake. Then President Uhuru Kenyatta went to the next step, which most Kenyans did not see. The Building Bridges Initiative process. That BBI, if you ask me, it was a decoy. Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to test how these leaders were going to receive an idea of an expanded executive. The idea of an expanded executive was to allow President Uhuru Kenyatta to create an alliance. And also, this idea of BBI coming up with the expanded executive was to be used by President Uhuru Kenyatta to identify the rebels in Jubilee Party. And of course, William Ruto went outside there and opposed this BBI. And from this BBI, that's where people like Kanini Kega, who supported it, emerged. People like Sabina Chege, the majority of people who opposed BBI from Jubilee Party were identified as rebels. So Uhuru Kenyatta was then able to know that in Jubilee Party, William Ruto has these people, I have these people. And this decoy of BBI was also used by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Strategically, the chess master wanted to test the strength of the deputy president in parliament. Because the deputy president had always claimed, and his allies, that the deputy president, Dr. William Ruto, was actually the one in charge of parliament. That majority of members of parliament were for him. President Uhuru Kenyatta also used this to test his strength at the county assemblies. So when it was put to vote, the deputy president was humiliated in parliament, at the Senate, and he was also humiliated at the county assemblies. So President Uhuru Kenyatta then decided that this guy has no strength in parliament. So the next step was to kick him out of government. So strategically, after BBI, William Ruto was kicked out of government. And after BBI, President Uhuru Kenyatta was able to use that BBI to bring together Raila, his NASA co-principals, to at least start talking. Which takes us to the other option. He used this BBI to bring together. Now, Kalonzo was brought on board. Let's support BBI. Gideon, kuja na watu wako. Mudavadi, kuja na watu wako. Raila, kuja na watu wako. Mimi, kuja na watu wangu. So they were able to work together. Then the president started figuring out that 2022 is approaching. So he went to his third stage. How do we reduce the competition in NASA? The answer was so simple. Form one Kenya alliance. So Raila Odinga was left this side with his ODM party. Uhuru Kenyatta came and formed one Kenya alliance. So one Kenya alliance now had four principles: Kalonzo, Mudavadi, Wetangula, and Gideon Moi. Raila Odinga was left with the other side. So Gideon Moi had a role and a purpose. Gideon Moi's role and purpose was simple: ensure that Gideon Moi's role was simple: ensure that Kalonzo Musyoka is the leader of this group. Check him. So Kalonzo akienda hapa, Gideon Moi ako naye. Kalonzo akienda hapa, Gideon Moi ako naye. Kalonzo akienda hapa, Gideon Moi ako naye. So that was the strategy. So we now had ODM on this side, Jubilee on this side. Then a coalition was created, one Kenya alliance. So these guys were busy thinking that President Uhuru Kenyatta might support them. Kumbe, unknown to them, the president was simply reducing the noise which was disturbing Raila Odinga from the other side. He went for his fourth step, which is the formation of a super alliance. I said BBI was a decoy. So once BBI was thrown out by the courts, the president then came up with the idea of a super alliance. So he came up with Azimio la Umoja. So Azimio la Umoja now means Jubilee coming to work with Raila Odinga, which is ODM. So if you are keen, you should have realized that as Azimio la Umoja started picking up, other political parties also started taking shape. In Western Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta started creating a team there. So Raila Odinga was creating his team. There was Oparanya and the group. Uhuru Kenyatta was also busy creating his team. Eugene Wamalwa wa Munyinyi. In fact, DAP Kenya was actually formed at Capitol Hill. So that tells you Uhuru Kenyatta was fully in charge, but because he was the president, it would have made, people would have made noise if he met these guys. So aliwambia aenda kwa Raila. So Raila was briefed, okay, let these guys form their party. So they formed the Azimio la Umoja. So Uhuru Kenyatta ended up with Azimio la Umoja, bringing up several political parties. So he started working on how to bring these other guys together. And which takes us back to his scheme of reducing the competition in NASA. So Uhuru Kenyatta, in his own thinking, and that's why I gave you the example of DAP, realized that all these core principles in NASA, some of them will not agree to work with Raila Odinga. So he figured out who will bring the few votes, who is not that important. So he told Gideon, wewe shikilia Kalonzo. So Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who engineered the departure of Mudavadi and the departure of Wetangula from one Kenya alliance, because he had come up with a full team of Azimio la Umoja, people who had entered into Azimio. You know, those several political parties, he had organized the northern Kenya, he had organized Western. Raila was busy with Nyanza. You know, in Kisii, there was even a small party there which was swallowed by ODM. You know, in Ukambani, he had managed to bring all those other political parties. At the coast, there was ODM, and then there was that rebellion of Amason Kingi and the rest. So he managed to bring Amason Kingi on board. So he was ready. In Western, he believed that Raila Odinga can actually deal with these people. So he was dealing with Bukusu through Wamalo and Wamunyinyi. So he figured out that bringing Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi and Weta to Azimio la Umoja will make negotiations very difficult. Who was going to agree to step down? Very, very difficult. So Kalonzo, wewe Gideon anakuchunga, Mudavadi we enda, Wetangula wewe enda. So Azimio la Umoja then remained. So people started negotiating. One Kenya lands. Of course, if you remember, Wetangula and Mudavadi went to UDA and formed One Kenya Alliance. So and formed Kenya Kwanza. So One Kenya Alliance remained with the principals now, Martha Karua, Jirongo, and Gideon, together with the man, Kalonzo Musyoka. So President Uhuru Kenyatta, after doing all those, he had figured out that no, the best thing for me is to make Raila Odinga desperate. That everything is working, and for him to succeed and win the first round, he needed Kalonzo on board. But Kalonzo can only come on board not as a running mate, but just as a supporting guy. So how can Kalonzo be convinced to work with Raila Odinga after Raila Odinga had betrayed him, after people like Sifuna had uttered unprintable words against him? So Raila Odinga became very desperate. And you witnessed how Kalonzo Musyoka became a problem. A deal had to be brokered. Where? At State House. Why do you think that deal was brokered at State House? People started arriving at Jacaranda at the previous night. At KICC, the event was supposed to start at 8. By midday, Kalonzo was still holed up in a meeting with the president. Why do you think that was happening? To make Raila Odinga appear desperate. So Raila Odinga became desperate. My only hope now is Kalonzo. So the only person who can save me is President Uhuru Kenyatta. Oh, President, talk to Kalonzo, convince him. What does he want? Oh, so the president came. They met, and Kalonzo Musyoka agreed to support the Azimio la Umoja. All credit goes to two people, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Gideon Moi. If you monitored everything, when Kalonzo emerged at KICC walking alongside Gideon Moi, Raila Odinga supporters were so excited. They were not excited about Kalonzo coming, but they were excited about Gideon Moi delivering Kalonzo Musyoka to One Kenya Alliance movement. Which takes us to our last part. What is President Uhuru Kenyatta's game plan? I want you guys to watch the man called Gideon Moi. Because by that act alone, President Uhuru Kenyatta has made Gideon Moi more appealing to the people, to the voters who support Raila Odinga than Kalonzo. Which means if the president's plan was to pave way using Mandela's moment for Gideon Moi, that path is now coming out clearly. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Do you agree that President Uhuru Kenyatta is a chess master when it comes to politics? Until next time, enjoy your day.